Here is what Green Bay did not want you to find out. Micah Parsons might not suit up until deep into October, and the man who confirmed it is someone no Packers fan can dismiss: his own brother. The NFC North race just shifted dramatically, and if you bleed navy and orange, this news should have you fired up. If this kind of deep dive NFL content gets your blood pumping, do us a favor right now: smash that like button, share this with every Bears fan you know, and hit subscribe so you never miss a breakdown like this one. Here is the situation. Micah Parsons, the most dominant pass rusher in the NFC, is dealing with an injury that has his brother Terrence Parsons going on social media to manage expectations, and what he is saying is not encouraging for Green Bay at all. When Packers fans started pushing back on Terrence online, he fired back with this. He made it crystal clear that Week 5 was always an unrealistic target for Micah's return, and that whenever Parsons does eventually get back on the practice field, he is going to need at least 3 full weeks of practice before he can play in a real game. 3 weeks minimum. That is not a guy who is close. That is a guy who is still a long way away. Then a prominent Packers media personality jumped in and tried to work the math in Green Bay's favor. He suggested that if Parsons starts the season on the physically unable to perform list, he could theoretically begin practicing around Week 3, ramp up through Week 4, and potentially be available by Week 5, which, not so coincidentally, happens to be when the Packers face the Chicago Bears. Of course it does. But Terrence Parsons shut that theory down cold. His response was blunt. He does not believe Micah will step onto a practice field until October. Read that again. October. Which means the absolute earliest Micah could suit up for a game, accounting for that mandatory 3-week practice window his brother mentioned, would be somewhere around Week 7 or later. Now think about what that actually means for the Green Bay Packers. Let's be real for a second. Does anyone on that defensive line scare you without Micah Parsons leading the charge? Because when you strip him away and look at what is left, the picture is not nearly as terrifying as Packers fans like to pretend it is. Javon Hargrave has had strong seasons in the past, but the last couple of years have been disappointing, and he was far from impressive in Minnesota last season while also battling injury. Devontae Wyatt is a serviceable interior lineman, but he too is coming off an injury. There has been a wave of excitement from Packers fans about Lucas Van Ness after minicamp, but at this point it is year 4, the breakout year. Narrative can only carry so much weight. Dennis Sutton came in as a 4th-round pick in the draft, and while there is intrigue there, asking a rookie selected in round 4 to replace Micah Parsons' production is a massive ask. Baron Seibert flashed a little something late last season, but flashing in late season, low-stakes games is a long way from being a consistent force. The point is this: Micah Parsons is not just a good player. He is a multiplier. When he is on the field, everyone around him becomes better, scarier, and harder to deal with. Javon Hargrave as your third option is genuinely formidable when Parsons is drawing double teams and creating chaos off the edge. Without him, those same guys become much more manageable. Green Bay's defensive identity does not just take a hit without Parsons, it completely transforms. And here is the number that tells the whole story. Last year, with Micah Parsons on the field, the Packers allowed fewer than 21 points per game, surrendered less than 210 passing yards, and generated 34 sacks with 13 turnovers. Without him, across just 4.25 games, points allowed jumped to nearly 30 per game, rushing yards exploded by 57 per game, and the entire team managed only 3 sacks and 3 turnovers combined. 3 sacks? In 4 games. That is almost incomprehensible for a defense that was considered elite just weeks before. The collapse was real. The Packers gave up 41 points to a Baltimore Ravens team playing without Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry ran through them for over 200 yards. They lost to a Minnesota Vikings team that was resting starters. And then, in the most painful way possible for Packers fans, they blew a 21-3 lead against the Chicago Bears. So here is your question of the day, and we genuinely want to hear from you in the comments below. Without Micah Parsons, do the Packers even make the playoffs this year? Drop your honest answer down there. Because this is a real conversation that needs to be had. Now here is where it gets even more interesting from a strategic standpoint. Green Bay is also breaking in a brand new defensive coordinator this season. Jonathan Gannon is stepping in after Jeff Hafley did a tremendous job in that role and then departed. Gannon is now walking into a situation where he has to build a system, install his scheme, and simultaneously plan for an extended stretch of games without the best player on his entire defense. That is an incredibly difficult position to be in during a season that could decide the direction of this franchise. He essentially has to build two versions of his defense, the one that survives without Micah, and the one that integrates him back when he returns. That is not impossible, but it is a genuine complication that should not be glossed over. And this is where Bears fans need to zoom out and see the full picture, because the opportunity in front of Chicago right now is significant. The early portion of the schedule sets up in a way that a team with genuine Super Bowl aspirations should absolutely capitalize on. Carolina in Week 1 is a winnable game. The Vikings at home in Week 2 is very much in play. The Eagles come in early while still installing a new offensive system. Chicago handled them convincingly last year. Then you have the Jets and the Falcons. And sitting right there in Week 5 is a Packers team that, based on everything Terrence Parsons said, will almost certainly be without their best defensive player. That is a stretch of games where the Bears could build serious momentum, separate themselves in the division standings, and put real pressure on Green Bay before Parsons ever sees the field. Because once Micah does return, and he will return, he is that kind of player, the schedule gets much harder. The Cowboys, Lions, Bills, Texans, Rams, those are not soft touches. If the Bears are going to create separation in the NFC North, the window is right now, in the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. One more thing worth saying out loud. Even if Micah somehow defied the timeline and was technically available for that Week 5 Bears game, why would Green Bay rush him back at 75 or 80% with limited practice reps against a divisional opponent? After paying him one of the richest contracts in NFL history, burning him into action before he is truly ready would be reckless. The smarter organizational move is patience. Get him fully healthy, let him explode onto the field when he is actually ready to dominate. So the most likely scenario is that the Bears face Green Bay in Week 5 without Micah Parsons. Full stop. Micah Parsons has done something no player in professional football history has ever done, posting 12 or more sacks in each of his first 5 NFL seasons. Even in years where he missed games, he found a way to reach that number. He is genuinely historic. Which is exactly why his absence matters this much. The NFC North is going to be decided by razor-thin margins again. Last year all 4 teams finished within 2 games of each other. If Parsons misses 6, 7, or 8 games, that difference could be the entire season for Green Bay. Who do you think wins the NFC North this year? Let everyone know in the comments right now.